Down in the basement near my workshop is the cat's room. And in the cat's room has been this Zaanse clock laying on the floor. And it doesn't work, and my wife's been after me to fix it. And I was hoping the cat would do it, but I guess I'm going to have to do it myself. This clock is almost identical to one that I had bought from a thrift store a few months ago. Now there's only one thing that I really like about these Zaanse clocks, and that is the nice sound that the bell makes. I don't like the dial, I don't like the hands, I hate all that ornamentation, so I took it off. Anyway, like I said, there are people that love them, so I may as well try and fix this one up for the person that loves it. Removing a movement from one of these little clocks is actually pretty easy. Person just has to take off the hands, take the bell hammer off, and disconnect the chains. My first concern was, is this movement in any way damaged? Because if it's damaged, I'm not going to waste a bunch of time trying to fix it. If it's a case of it just being dirty and dusty, which is usually the case, then there wouldn't be much of a problem. And in this case, it was just needing oiling and a little bit of cleaning. The movement was actually in very good condition. I'm using a piece of wire here to keep the wind governor from turning like 100,000 RPM in the wrong direction when I use compressed air to blow it out. This is clock oil. It's only about an ounce in there, and it was expensive. It came with papers specifying the viscosity and a bunch of other technical data that I had no clue what they were talking about. But it must be good stuff. I think the idea is that it doesn't solidify over time like ordinary oil will. I'm just hoping they didn't just use cheap 3-in-1 oil in there and then charge a big price. Never know these days. I used Q-tips and solvent here to try and remove some of the solidified oil from the bearings. Then I used a needle to apply a small amount of oil to the end of each shaft. Probably a couple of drops would be enough to do the entire clock. Doesn't take very much oil. Here I'm threading the chains up through the bottom of the case. They then, of course, have to be threaded around through the movement and then back out the other hole. One of the glass side panels on the clock had broken loose, and I wanted to glue it back on before I put the movement back. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but I've got arthritis in my hands, and I don't have the dexterity in my fingers like I used to have. And putting the movement back in, it looks a little bit clumsy here. And put the hooks and pulls back on the chain, and then mount the pendulum rod on the suspension spring. Okay, it's hanging up here. It's a case now of just adjusting the beat so that it ticks evenly, and then of course adjust the pendulum length so that it keeps proper time, and then we'll give it back to the person that loves it. Now if you listen closely, you can actually hear a tick. But there is one thing that bothers me. The cat has his own room?